Mishelly Eldest Books. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the 4th installment of the Shadowhunter Chronicles reading vlog. I will leave all the other links to the other videos in this series in the description box below if you want to go check those out. If you have not read this book, I strongly suggest you wait and come back when you have, because there's definitely going to be spoilers. But definitely come back because I would love to hear your thoughts. In this vlog, I will be covering the last book in the Mortal Instruments series called City of Heavenly Fire. Let's go ahead and get into this. I hope you enjoy. I just filmed like 2 other really long videos and I just cannot talk. I just cannot talk today. Anyways, I realized based on my last update for City of Lost Souls, I'm sorry, I feel like I was all over the place talking about that book and it's not as organized. I think that this book needs some waypoints. This book being City of Heavenly Fire, since I just started it. So this is the first 7 chapters that I have read of this book and there's just like so much going on. So right now I'm about to start chapter 8. So what's been going on so far in the epilogue? We meet new characters at the LA Institute. Now, it took me a minute to realize that this was current time and not like in the past. But anyways, we meet Emma Carstairs. Now, how is there a Carstairs? I know back in TID, Jem's family is back in Beijing or something, and that's where he had come to London from. And now that I think back, we didn't really talk too much about his family, like his parents, or if he had siblings or cousins. That's my guess. It would be interesting to see a family tree. And I'm sure that I could Google it, but I don't want to spoil anything for myself, so we're gonna wait. The books decide to tell me what they want me to know about all that. I'm sure it will all make sense in time. We also find out later that Emma's parents had been out on some project or something and their bodies had washed up on shore. So we also meet the Blackthorns, the children specifically. The Blackthorns actually run the LA Institute. I heard that the Blackthorns are talked about a lot in this book, so I wanted to make a mental note to really keep track of their storyline. Now, I can't remember all the kids' names. I know there's other kids, but I'm sure that they will start to stick if they're important enough as the story goes on. And then there's Helen. We met her a little bit in City of Lost, and she is dating Aline. We meet back in City of Glass. Let's get into Sebastian. He brings a whole new level of villainy to this book as he sweeps the world, knocking off institutes and building his darkened army. And now he can heal. He has been juiced up by Lilith herself, and now that I think Emma stabs him, by the way, I'm starting to like her. She's got some fierce character. So Emma and the kids end up making it through a portal into Idris, except for a kid named Mark. But Helen's not there. So Mark and Helen have fae blood. They kind of go into the rumors of their dad having an affair with the fairy princess. So we'll see what goes into that. They capture Mark and bring him down to Sebastian. Sebastian doesn't want him because he can tell that he has fae blood and he doesn't want downworlders. And he said something else, kind of foreshadowing that he doesn't want to cross the fae, sort of, because he's like, oh, I don't think that would be a good idea or something like that. Like if they were just to kill him. But then when I learned about Sebastian, like, I guess it makes sense. Due to all these attacks, the Clave evacuates everyone to Alicante. And you know Sebastian was betting on this. Now he has them all in one place. So right before the New York cast goes off to Alicante, they meet for their goodbyes and have their episodic, melodramatic relationship going on. And not that I don't appreciate it, but it's just exhausting to go into. They originally leave Magnus and Simon behind, but they all end up in Alicante anyways. And I really like how that plays out. There's the crazy tiny vampire queen Maureen. She kills Camille in the previous book. She captures Simon because she's like had this long crush on him, dresses him up in some frilly top, and that's pretty interesting. So Raphael comes to the rescue and breaks Simon out of jail because he needs his assistance in Alicante. He is the rep for the vampires there. He wants Simon to go with him because of his connection to the Shadowhunters. So that puts them in a really interesting situation. Now they are going to be spending some time together and neither of them really like each other. I really hope that we see some growth there. I'm sure that we will, otherwise there'd be no point to putting them together, and Cassandra Clare is very good at like giving us some good stuff. Maybe we'll also get to learn about Raphael's story a little bit more. It's mentioned a couple times in this book that how young Raphael was when he must have been turned, like 13 or 14 or 15 maybe, I think he says. And also Simon is kind of starting to think about what he can do to earn money. So I'm thinking that he's going to need Raphael's advice on how to do that, because he specifically brings up the fact that he looks too young to get a job. Back in New York, Magnus and Katerina are, I guess, like sitting at a diner or something. They're having a conversation, a meeting. I realize how long Katerina has known Magnus. So she may be a really significant character, and maybe we'll even see more of her in the Bane Chronicles. She was going to go to Alicante as the rep for the Warlocks. Magnus usually does it, but he was going to send Katerina so that he didn't have to see Alec. Grow up, Magnus, sorry, but put your big boy panties on. Anyways, but she convinces him to trade back and face Alec, tell him how he really feels, because Magnus is not over it, even though he said he was. But I guess we're gonna see them reconcile, which is all kind of cute and sweet. So Katerina had received an invitation from Meliorn to go to like some dinner or something. We'll see how that goes, because we don't know, I guess, 100% where the fairies lie, what side they're on. Is this a trap? So from the top again, Clary and Jace. Now that he is infused with heavenly fire, there is a no touching rule, and their sexual frustration is getting all pent up. Like, they can't even make out without Jace lighting something on fire. So that brings a whole new meaning to hot and bothered, or getting heated, or that boy is hot. Okay, no, for real, I'm done. Anyways, Clary's mom is thrilled about that, though. They're off in Alicante, and Clary wants to buy a real Shadowhunter's weapon. I think this is really cool. So Jace takes her to this famous weapon shop. The woman knows who she is and gives her the gift of the Morgenstern sword. And there's this whole cool history behind this. These swords were created by the Waylands, and it was for father and son, for Valentine and his son, but Jocelyn had ended up with the short sword. Sebastian obviously has the long sword now. Yeah, Jocelyn had taken the short sword, and she ended up selling it to the shop, but nobody wants to buy the sword. I feel like if you bought a family sword or that wasn't gifted to you, it would never really feel like yours, in my opinion. She told her, please take it, and when you kill your brother, you can bring honor back to the name. Morgenstern name. So I was like, that's really cool. I like that. First, back to City of Glass and Lake Lynn. So Lake Lynn was toxic to Shadowhunters, but Downworlders had no problem if they ingested the water. Back when I read that, it made me think that there's something more to that. Like, maybe there wasn't supposed to be such a divide for everyone. Maybe Alicante wasn't just supposed to be for the Shadowhunters. And then here again in Idris, there's something that's pointed out to in the buildings. It says like Council, Covenant, Clave, and it has a symbol for each of the Downworlders. So I don't know if that's like some foreshadowing. I just felt like it was important to bring up. It could just mean that they all have a chair on the board, or maybe there's more to it. So Jordan dies, by the way. I was totally shocked by this. I actually kind of like Jordan, even though I didn't like him with Maya. Just has no game. Like, he is way too forceful and way too pushy. Like, I still didn't want him to die. Like, I really liked him. I really liked his friendship with Simon. So I really could not believe it. Then we find out that Sebastian is screwing the Sealy Queen. That was really shocking too. I guess it makes sense why they're in cahoots now. She's solidly on his side and not this wild card allies. While at the Sealy court, we discover what their evil plans are. They are to capture Jace and Clary, and their next target is London. And actually, that's why Jordan was killed. At the London Institute, they mentioned that there is like a protection that even the Clave was not aware about. And I can't help but wonder if it's Tessa. If Tessa has something to do with it. But she doesn't really, like, maybe she learned some new tricks or something, or maybe it's one of her children who like has some kind of ability. I don't even know if she has children. I just assume she did. I don't know. But anyways, I guess we'll find out. Very exciting. Then we find out that the Undarkened is on their way to the Citadel where the Iron Sisters are, and they're going to attack there. So the Shadowhunters decide to open up a portal. However, when we first went to the Citadel, only the Iron Sisters can open a portal. The portal opened somehow, and Shadowhunters think that there's only going to be like maybe 10 or 20. They will outnumber the Undarkened. Well, surprise, surprise, they don't. And it's this whole big battle scene. And of course, Jace and Clary get a hero complex and want to leap through the portal, save the day. This really irritated me. I'm like, how many times? How many times? I'm honestly getting a little bit annoyed with the hero complex. But at the same time, Jace goes all fiery ball. It ended well, of course. Amatis and Clary have this weird standoff, but Clary manages to escape the evil Amatis. The world cracks open and the Andarkan jump into the dark pit. The Iron Sisters come out and I guess they make like some circle or something around Jace. Jace had gotten stabbed and he was like bleeding out fire or something. He was not doing good. Brother Zachariah. The coolest thing about all of this is that Brother Zachariah draws like a rune on his hand and then goes to touch Jace, and then the fire engulfs Brother Zachariah and like he gets turned into a man again. I'm so excited. So I finally get the story of like how he becomes Gem again, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. So where are we at? So Magnus knows who is protecting the London Institute. He told Jocelyn that she would probably recognize her name. That person would not appreciate it and would rather stay anonymous. So I'm trying to think who that would be, because it's not Tessa, so I'm wondering if it's Miss Bronwell, because Magnus says something like a ghost, and I think that that's what we're supposed to be led to believe, but I'm sure that we will find out later. There's actually quite a bit of talk about the time before Shadowhunters, and it's kind of interesting to think that maybe Magnus knows of people who remembers that time, but they mentioned some old and wild magic that was around before Jonathan the Shadowhunter. So I'm really wondering if that's where we're going. Sebastian is going to be tapping into that old and wild magic, as they also talk about how the Citadel is built on ley lines. So then into chapter 9, Jocelyn explains to Clary how she got her name, and this is Jace and Clary come back from the Citadel area. Clary had depleted herself severely, giving Jace an Arazzi. I didn't know that would deplete Shadowhunters. So that's new. But anyways, Jocelyn explains how Clary got her name, Clary Frey. So Clary they finally explain also that Clary got that ceremony done that all baby Nephilim get to protect their soul. And really, it's kind of like a baptism. You are required to have 2 Shadowhunters, but because they were in hiding, they got Brother Zachariah. Again, Brother Zachariah, he's just popping up all over the place. Brother Zachariah and a warlock named Frey performed the ceremony, and that's where Clary Frey gets her name. So Jocelyn says that she just simply liked her name and she needed a name. Not a whole lot else went into it. But I just realized that maybe this is the warlock who is protecting the London Institute, because then that would make sense that the name would sound familiar. And warlocks do, work with spells, and Magnus did say that there is a spell protecting the London Institute. I'm sure we have not seen the last of the warlock Frey. Okay, so Brother Zachariah, we actually officially see that the fire worked on him and made him into Gem again. And he and Jace have a really interesting conversation where he confirms that Jace is the Blade of Heaven. He has been given a gift and a responsibility. He can't get rid of the fire. But we already knew all that. So now if anyone can give him any insight on how to control it, that's what we need. However, I'm supposed to start part 2 in the book. So far, Jace isn't even doing anything to help himself. I don't know. I guess he's kind of caught in a hard place, like it hurts him. How can you even attempt to try to learn to control it? Because he is kind of afraid of it. I was gonna criticize him, but I guess I can kind of see where he's kind of stuck in a hard place there. So Simon and Raphael, they are in Idris. Simon spends some time with Izzy, gets new clothes, gets caught messing around in Alec's bedroom. He gets hungry, and so Clary takes him off to the house reserved for the vampire representative to go get dinner or go get blood, and Raphael gives him spiked blood. That was kind of cool. Had to make sure that I mentioned that. So he gets drunk off blood, knocks on the Lightwood's door, and starts causing a whole scene. It's kind of funny. So Clary gets him back to her house so he can sleep it off, and she finds Sebastian waiting for her. Sebastian showed up to torment her. He puts her in these magical field or something like that and tries to torment her and come onto her and all that nasty shit. Then Jace shows up and they all exchange their usual banter back and forth for 5 pages. I don't know. But we do get a bit more insight into Sebastian's character. We see some vulnerability there. Jace really has a unique insight into Sebastian. He really strikes a nerve when he calls Sebastian out for being lonely and wanting Clary and Jace, but at least Clary, to choose him. Because no one chooses him. Everyone who's around him, it either suits their needs or they're forced into it. He only understands taking and getting what he wants, almost like a spoiled little child that like never grew up. And he also expects that everyone else ought to change and he doesn't have to change. And I thought that that was key. It makes a very good point. So Jace has this weapon, this Heavenly Fire. It actually does scare Sebastian. It's the one thing that he knows that can hurt him. Sebastian can't control it, he can't predict it, but also Jace can't either. And he can't even get it to work right or work when he wants it to work. Like now, this being a big part of the conflict in this book. It can destroy him before he can even figure out how to get it to work. So we all know at the end of the day that the good guys are going to win, but it's a matter of how. I think that it's going to be Cassandra Clare's style to make it utterly impossible and hopeless until like the very last second. And then Jace will finally just let the fire go completely, potentially lose himself. Or Clary also has angel blood, so maybe she will find a way to help carry the burden and they can work as a team to destroy Sebastian. That would be a really interesting spin. Or because Jace just cannot help himself, it will be a very dramatic, self-sacrificial act to let it go again and completely just destroy himself, kill himself basically. He will die, and then in the epilogue, the angel, or no, God, because we have to really up the antes here of anything that's happened before. It has to be completely epic and new, so it will be God who comes down and gives him his life back for his sacrifice. Or will they make Jace an angel? But no, he needs to stay with Clary, so no. Either way, I think it will be just epic and likely extremely dramatic. Now there's a lot of just going back and forth with Jace and Clary and Bat and Maya and the Shadowhunters in the council and the Clave. Oh, they just discovered that the Downworlders, who were all at Meliorn's dinner, are missing. They don't suspect that Meliorn had anything to do with it yet. The Silent Brothers had brought back an Endarkened from the Citadel, and they're trying to do like spell reversals on him and stuff, but the Endarkened is explaining kind of what Sebastian wants in front of everyone, by the way. Sebastian, again. So Sebastian sets up this whole elaborate game, I guess. So the Endarkened tells the whole group of this deal that Sebastian only wants Jace and Clary. Sebastian indeed took the Downworlders. Still doesn't mention Meliorn, but Sebastian has the Downworlders, and that he will trade for Jace and Clary. So now that's put in a wedge between all the Shadowhunters, and we have, of course, all the ones that immediately care about our main cast, and they're like, we know Sebastian's a liar, like, you can't do this. And then you have the other half who's like, go ahead, trade him. And then you have this whole conflict of, if you trade them, then you're playing into Sebastian. He's going to kill them anyways. It might not work. He still might not uphold his end of the trade and give them the Downworlders back. But if you don't trade, what if he kills them? Wait, what is it? And overall, like, this just puts them all in this catch-22 situation, and I could try to break it down, but it's just a lot. It's a fucked up mess. But for Sebastian, it's more than acquisition. He could have taken Jace and Clary when he was at Ametyst's house. But it's much more fun to see the Shadowhunters destroy themselves and stick a wedge in between them and make it their fault that they lost the Shadowhunter children in place of Downworlders. It's more fun to see them have to make that choice. And either way they look at it, either they lose two of their own and also hand them over a weapon that's their only leverage to defeating them, or they make enemies of all the Downworlders because they won't exchange two of their own for Downworlders, and there's so much prejudice between Shadowhunters and Downworlders that's what the conclusion they would come up with naturally. Sebastian has also made a very strong statement that he can come into Idris anytime he wants. He can do whatever he wants. Idris is their safe place, and Sebastian can come in there and attack them anytime they want, because he left more angel blood all over the amphitheater. Also, while all this is going on outside of Idris, the Clave can only hope that the Downworlders are respecting the Accords and going about business as usual, even despite their leaders gone. Anyway, so they can only hope that the Downworlders in the cities are respecting the Accords. But we know that at least in New York, it's going to shit. with Maureen, the crazy, insane, tiny vampire queen, who doesn't know about the rules or just doesn't care. And she's protected by the vampire clan because she wants to feast upon the mundanes with no restrictions. And the rest of the vampires are like, hey, it's a party, let's do it. And they don't have to be held accountable to the clave, only the wolves are also falling apart. Without Luke, their loyalties are faltering. Rufus challenges Bat, and Bat is Luke's second in command. He's in charge when Luke is not there. But they're going to fight for leadership because they don't necessarily respect him and they think Luke has abandoned them. All the institutes around the world are empty and unprotected. So their situation is looking more and more helpless. So of course, Jace again offers himself up, but without Clary, there's no deal, according to the Darkened. But this just made me so mad. Like, it is getting old, Jace, but then also he has sacrificed himself for much less, so why stop now? But thankfully, for once, he listens to Alec, because not only is it just him, he's also got to think about Clary. And Alec, because they have Magnus, Alec is like, you don't respect me as a parabatai, you don't respect me as a Shadowhunter. Good for Alec for standing up to Jace, because, he needed that smack in the face. He really did. So Jace and Alec have this extremely touching conversation about when Jace asked Alec to be his parabatai. It is so sweet and touching, and I had tears. What I have to bring up this next thing just because it's weird how much it fits into the real world right now. They're talking about the Shadowhunters' loyalties to the Shadowhunters and what the repercussions will be if they don't make the trade. And man, do we get some stories of how the Shadowhunters time and time again have treated the Downworlders like shit. And it is sad, it is fucked up, and again, so befitting for what's going on in the world right now. When it's laid out like that, why would any of the Downworlders stay loyal to the Shadowhunters? Is it any surprise that the Fae have sided against them? Marseille chimes in and says, not all Shadowhunters are like that. This seems to be a popular rebuttal, or it's very realistic. Not all XYZ people are racist, but it is easy to see how people get grouped together when enough bad things happen. And it's not just isolated to one person or a couple instances. It's been perpetual since forever and still exists. So what is on page 313? I made a note that it was way overplayed. 312 to page 313. Clary is talking about Sebastian, and she's trying to explain what it's like to know Sebastian or look at Sebastian.
Imagine if you're the last Shadowhunter on Earth. Imagine if all your friends and family were dead. Imagine if there was no one left to be who even believed in what you were. Imagine if you were on Earth in a billion years after the sun had scorched away all life.
Holy cow. It's a bit overly played. I believe bad, evil, sadistic would have sufficed. You really lost me at the third sentence beginning with imagine. I got it. It's fucking shit. So on to chapter 12. So they're doing the whole funeral thing for all of their lost Shadowhunters, and I believe it's Gia, is it how you say it? Inquisitor. I believe it's her who's talking to Brother Zachariah. I don't know how she knows about Tessa and how close he is to her, because she would never have met him. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But it seems a little convenient that she happens to know. And she's in the midst of all of this, she's like, oh, why don't you go be with Tessa? Anyways, I think it was just to spur this conversation that Brother Zachariah is just really not ready to take his name Gem yet, and also that he's not ready to see Tessa, and not even he wants to see her more than anything, but things are just not right. Where is she at? She's at a place called the Spiral Labyrinth with other warlocks. She's safe there. So he's going to stay and help the Shadowhunters and save the world. And then maybe he can go see Tessa, which we know in the epilogue of the Infernal Devices, the last one, that they do see each other again. So now all this stuff happens. Emma is sneaks into Izzy's bedroom so that she can deliver some news that she has already determined that she does not trust the Clave because they used the mortal sword on all of the kids, and that she swears that they all would have told the truth, and she feels like they just assumed that they would lie or something, and she's like, why would we lie? So I can see her perspective on that. She says that the sword really hurt them all, and how could you hurt the kids? And Emma goes and tells them the news of Edom. They determine that Edom is a real place. It is one of the hundreds or thousands of hell dimensions. And oh hey, the gateway lays in the Sealy court. How convenient. But also, we see that maybe Sebastian's relationship with the Sealy Queen is for his convenience, because he can travel back and forth, he can have his armies go through the court, and I'm sure she's not surprised that she's being used, but she's intrigued with him, and it serves her purpose too. So, they are just exhausting to deal with. I'm just over them. They just need to go the fuck away. So again, Jace, I'm just over that. That is getting old too. Jace was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go by myself. Okay, we know that that's not gonna happen. He's not even resisting that much anymore against his friends who were like, no, Jace. On the plus side though, Jace and Clary are working with the others better. They're not just sneaking off by themselves and lying to everybody. And the group has also gotten a lot better at planning their missions. So that's good. But we also learned that Meliorn's place on the council was very intentional. The queen made sure that Meliorn got that spot. She pulled a favor to get Meliorn because he is only half Fae, and so he can lie. So Alec kills Meliorn, and that was very good. Like, finally, one of the bad guys gets it. Now, I thought that when this happened, it was like, okay, sure, let me show you. And the queen takes them to the tunnel to hell, also known as the Three Roads. Three roads being that there are three tunnels. One goes to hell, one goes to the mundane world, and the other one goes to fairyland. I thought that it was just way too easy, and I think that they all felt it too, but they're just like, whatever, we got what we wanted, let's just go, because they might not be coming back anyway, so what does it matter? Oh, so Jace is kind of like hesitant, and he's like, I'm trying to consider this. You can't tell anyone that we were here, Jace, come on. You know, like, he knows the queen better than that. So, as soon as they leave, she goes to her magical mirror, calls up Sebastian. She says, hey, I just wanted to let you know that Jace and the group left. Because Jace didn't specify that she couldn't say that they left. Honestly, I feel like Sebastian knew that that was one of the outcomes, and he would get Clary and Jace to walk right into his lap. So predictable. So anyways, on their way to hell, they run into Mark. And the poor kid is just standing out there, waiting, I guess. And unfortunately, they cannot do anything about it. He has been marked officially by the hunt and something. I don't know. There is hope for him yet. He could survive, so they kind of try to help him, and they can't. Is it really helping him? He's probably has a better chance to face this hunt situation the Sealy Court's doing, putting him out there, and I don't know why. Maybe we'll learn a lot more about that. I'm pretty sure he's gonna survive, right? Anyways, so moving on, there's all this talk with the queen about trust, betrayal, being that the betrayal isn't natural to the Fae. Why she likes Sebastian. Because Sebastian's evil. She's evil, or at least self-satisfying, but like, heroes have too much honor, and Sebastian has no honor. Therefore, she was saying, Sebastian's more trustworthy. The whole thing made me think it was just some big oxymoron. I am halfway through the book now, chapter 14, and we are into part 2, That World Inverted, The Sleep of Reason. So we are into part 2 of this book. Our little band of heroes has entered Edom, the demon realm, and right off the bat, they are like stuck in these dreams. It's a demon that like feeds off of dreams that assume what they desire most. So Magnus somehow dreamwalks in Alec's dream and tells him to wake up, it is not real. There was kind of a funny moment there because he was like, Jace was like confessing his love to him or something like that, and he's like, Alec's like, I don't know what that's about. And I thought that was pretty funny. Who knows if that's the real Magnus or Alec's subconscious Magnus. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe it's not even that big of a deal. When they find Jace, he's got like this like terrified look on his face, but he denies that he saw anything. I'm sure he'll eventually talk about it. As they're walking through Edom, they are attacked by flying death turtles, fight them off, and they decide to go find a hideout. Being out in the open is not a good idea. What they end up finding has obviously been inhabited by someone who can make runes, but they didn't specify that they were Shadowhunter runes. They just say that they are holy runes. So I think that just means versus demonic runes. But as we know, there's many different types of people in this world that have their own different set of runes. So it makes me wonder who lived here. Maybe it was Magnus or Sebastian, or it might be a real stretch, but maybe even that demon Azazel, because he is a fallen angel, so if he writes any runes, they would be like holy runes, right? I don't know. It could be a complete stretch. I don't know. I just really like making these predictions, but I hope that we will find out. In the caves, they do find some water, and it has been, the bottom of the little thing that the water is in has been carved with runes, so they know that it is safe to drink. Thought that was a really good detail. The others split off. I think Alec just stands watch, and then Simon and Izzy take off, and in the distance they see evidence of like a demon city, which we will get back to in a minute. Over the night, Jace hears something and he goes charging off to find out what it is. Doesn't even wait for Alec, of course. He ends up finding the dead Iron Sister that he had killed. Or it's an illusion. She was destined to go there when she died because she was outcasted. They lead you to believe that it's really her. Until later, Jace says, oh no, it was just a demon. This illusion of her goads him into an emotional state, and he lets his heavenly fire go. Clary rushes over there. Suddenly she's figured out she can draw a fireproof rune so she can go into the fire and calm him down. So that was so cool. Also, another rune just comes to her. By the way, I haven't really talked about it, but there are things like these runes. I thought that was just going to be like an interlude to how she comes up with drawing new runes, but she doesn't ever work on trying to learn new and different runes separately. It's just kind of like whenever they come to her as it suits the plot of the story. I don't know how I feel about this, but we just don't talk about it. I'm just not going to think about it. We're just going to keep moving forward because I still love these books. Yeah. But anyways, so she discovers this rune just pops in her head, and she says she's been dreaming about it for a while. It's like the wings. She thought it was like a cross, but it's actually a sword. All of a sudden she like knows what to do. We don't know what she means exactly by she knows how to fix it. It ends that little segment with she reaches for her blade. So at that moment I was like, what, is she gonna stab him again? Try to put the fire back into the sword by stabbing him? That's literally what I thought. But what ends up happening is that she carves this rune into her sword and then manages to stifle the flames. One other thing I forgot to mention is when she walks into the fire, all of the earth around, like, it has turned into like a glass, like gold adamus versus a clear adamus. So I wonder if that's foreshadowing for something, maybe like a new weapon or something. But the adamus is what they make the seraph blades out of. Now we'll get to the scepters and stuff like that, but you should have already read this. So at one point in history they just had scepters and they weren't very useful against fighting demons. And then now they have the seraph blades, and then there was a time before portals. Like, they're constantly inventing new things. So I don't think it's far-stretched to think that they could use a new different type of adamus that's more effective at fighting demons. So who knows what we have in store for us for the future. In the past, when he let his fire go, he gets like hurt, right? So that was a real scare there that this fire could destroy him. But they both emerge from the fire and they're totally fine. And there's a hint that the sword is like glimmering gold like the fire. So I'm wondering if she found a way to put the fire back in her sword, if that's what that rune did, is take the fire and put it in. But of course they are keeping secrets from the others again, and from me. But also when Jace emerges, he declares that no need to worry, he knows how to control the fire and how to use it. all of a sudden they just know what's going on. I feel like this book is a bit rushed on certain things. Like I felt like that came way too easily. This is the first book I'm really experiencing that with, that I feel like that came too easily. I feel like some other things are put in such a way that I really don't think that Cassandra Clare intends to explain it. I think that certain things are just an easy way to explain things, like she wrote herself into a hole and then just had to like come up with some way to make it make sense suddenly. I don't know, I hate to think that, but like some things are just not making sense. For instance, by the way, why do Jace's clothes not burn up? I mean, he sets other people on fire, and I understand why he wouldn't like spontaneously, his body wouldn't spontaneously combust, but like why wouldn't his clothes burn up every time he catches fire? The Human Torch's clothes did, and that's why the Human Torch had a special irradiated suit that would be the only thing that wouldn't burn up when he went flamey. I guess it'd kind of be too awkward, complicated to explain his sudden nakedness, and also they could not catch his famous token leather jacket on fire. But I'm just being really nitpicky now because I keep noticing annoying things like this. I'm not holding it against the book yet, but I just something I noticed, okay? For the first time, this is not absolutely 100% perfect. So anyways, when Jace makes his human bonfire, the prisoners, wherever they're at, they can see it. So we know that they're close. Jocelyn and Sebastian were together at the time. Jocelyn knew exactly that it was the heavenly fire. So I'm assuming she's like, fuck, my daughter made it here. Of course she did. Of course. Why am I not surprised? But she thought Sebastian would be scared, and she was like, oh, that's heavenly fire, like, let me see you flinch, and he's like smirking, like he is not afraid at all. That makes me nervous. What is up Sebastian's sleeve? I really hope that he did not find some sort of heavenly fire extinguisher, like hell water or something. I don't know. I think that he thinks he did anyways. Clary still has her sword, and I'm telling you, I think that this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna have some epic battle, we're gonna think that they lost, but then their clever plan comes out of the woodworks and we see Clary defeat Sebastian once and for all. I think this is gonna happen. Back in New York, Maya is the new pack leader. This actually happened in the other segment I read, but I didn't mention it yet. I'll be honest, I was kind of getting bored with the New York stuff. It was just a lot of back and forth. You know, I do enjoy that too, but I'm just like so involved in this plot. I'm like, what's gonna happen? She has teamed up with Lily, who is a vampire, and they orchestrate this really clever way to deal with crazy Maureen. Maya injects herself with holy water. She asks Maureen to form an alliance, and to ensure that their alliance sticks, Maureen drinks Maya's holy blood and dies. Since Maya can't obviously be the leader of the vampires, she appoints Lily because it was Lily's idea. Now they have worked out an alliance. They also believe in upholding the accords. So things are coming back together here in New York. So I'm really loving this. I cannot wait for Luke and Raphael to come home to this and see what they think. Wound up the leader. So I don't think she really wanted it, but now that she is, she's gonna deal with it. I like that. In Alicante, we have Emma and Julian. We learn more about their relationship, how close they are, how much they grew up together, how much they shared with loss and fun, and they have like their secret way to kind of talk by like outlining things on their skin. And that's really cute and unique and sweet. But they are worried that they're going to be split up now that their parents are dead. The Blackthorns have an Uncle Arthur in London, but Emma doesn't, and Emma is at the mercy of wherever they end up putting her. Julian proposes that they become parabatai, because then nobody could separate them. So good plan, except they're really young, and I don't think that they understand how relationships can change and feelings can develop when they're older. Now, Emma has already said that she feels like her relationship is changing, that he's more than just her best friend and like more than family, and like, but she doesn't know what it is because she's still really young. She just knows that there's something deeper going on in their relationship. So I just don't think that she understands how powerful a romantic love is. And parabatai are forbidden to be with each other that way. But like, why? Why is it forbidden? It seems like it would make perfect sense. I think it's a stupid law. who better to be an item with than your parabatai? Like, they would already die for you. That's something that they're forever, and you should be forever with your spouse. And it's kind of unfair if you marry someone who has a parabatai, because then it's like you're sharing the spouse, almost, kind of. Because I guess you'd feel like you're still semi-married to their parabatai. Now, granted, in a lot of the situations, they're all really good, close friends anyways. I don't know. It seems like if you're someone's spouse, you want to be their number one, but when it comes down to it, life or death, like, they're gonna go save their parabatai, because now, of course, they wouldn't have to be separated, because later on, Brother Zachariah, or just Zachariah now, says that Emma should stay with Julian and the others because she grew up with them, and that'd be the best place for her. Emma is technically his family too. Of course, nobody knows this, because he's keeping his identity a secret too for now. Back to the prisoners. Things have gotten much more interesting there as well. We have Raphael, and he's getting hungry. Magnus is sick, and now we're also getting closer to finding out who Magnus's father is. He said that Edom is one of his father's many different realms. Raphael happens to know who Magnus's father is because he paid a lot of money to investigate and find out. I have to give him some credit. He talks a big game, but I think he's very honorable. He refuses to tell Luke. And Raphael and Magnus actually have a really interesting and pretty touching history. I was under the pressure, and here's something else I noticed in the book. We are led to believe that Raphael is really, like, old, like almost as old as Camille, right? But then Magnus is telling the story of 50 years ago, a woman comes to Magnus to help and asking for his help to save her son. And Raphael's about 14, so that only makes him 65 years old, right? Give or take, 65 years old. That's not that old. It turns around and hints at the fact that he's, like, much older. And I'm like, I'm either gonna have to reread this, but honestly, like, I don't really care about the details. Like, I don't think it matters how old he is. Moving on, I'm just saying, I noticed there might be some discrepancy on how old Raphael really is. Anyways, back to Magnus. So Magnus's sudden bout of sickness is basically a demon-y way of getting a message from his father for Magnus to call him. Getting more intense until Magnus actually calls him, but Magnus is not wanting to call him because his dad is scary. And how would he call him anyways? On the demon hotline? Luke doesn't understand. He doesn't know who his dad is, and he's like, well, can he help us? Like, call him up. Let's do this. Like, he's your dad, right? But Raphael and Magnus are like, no, you don't want his help. Like, trust me. Because there's always a price. He is a demon, and it's going to be a hefty price. So Luke is like, well, like, what would the price? Magnus is like, it might not even be me who pays the price. So, no. Trust me, you don't want me to call my dad. So I have thoughts and theories on this, and I feel like Magnus has had to call in a favor from Daddy Dearest at some point in his long life. And I feel like that is how we have a mirror evil version of Alicante, the demony city in Edom, that is going to be our next stage for this next part. In this evil demony Alicante, there is like a different history. Jonathan the Shadowhunter, there's a septum that was like their weapon to fight demons with, and then there was a red jewel that's like the jewel in Izzy's necklace. And Jace is like, I want that weapon. So he tries to take the scepter from the statue, sets off an alarm, demon dinner bell, and they have to flee. So Clary opens up a portal. Simon ends up having to bleed on Izzy's leg to save her, which thank goodness he could do that. I didn't even, was that in something else? When did he learn he could do that? I don't know. Oh, I remember. It wasn't at City of Glass. They discovered he's a daylighter because he fed on angel blood, and that also gave him like healing powers because he somehow healed Jace, right? But anyways, that is where I'm at. So I decided to update. I've got like just a hair over 100 pages left, but I had to update right now. We're just about to find out who Magnus's dad is. That's exactly where I ended. He just summoned his dad. And I think I know exactly who it is. But let's go ahead and backtrack. We were at like, I think chapter 19. So the prisoners, they were hanging out. The prisoners were just doing what prisoners do. Be prisoners. I don't even know right now. Sebastian's just spouting off as he normally does. And Raphael's just sitting there. He hadn't said a single word because nothing's really about him. And he was just like, you seem really crazy. And I just like started dying laughing. Like, it's so true, it's so funny, and it was just kind of like, so Sebastian was like, hey man, like, why don't you join me? And he was like, yeah, okay, why the hell not? And it didn't really take much convincing. So I thought it was a joke the whole time. And then I was doubting that it was a joke until he's like ordered to kill Magnus to seal the deal and prove himself. And then he gets up in Magnus's face with the knife. Sebastian orders Raphael to kill him with the knife. And Raphael drops the knife and he's like, I don't kill with knives. Like, I got my weapons, you know? Sebastian's like, you're gonna kill him with a knife. Like, relishing, you could just feel it, like he's relishing in just like having that control. He's gonna tell him who, what, when, where, how to kill him. And I was like, this is not gonna go over well. Like, I do not see Raphael taking orders like that. He goes ahead and does what Sebastian wants him to do. I was literally on the edge of my seat, and then when he got up in Magnus's face, I was like, no fucking way. Like, he's not gonna do it at the very end. Which he didn't, so that was cool. He got stabbed in his heart, and at this point we don't know like exactly how he died, because I didn't think that they could get killed with metal knives. Simon, since he was Simon's sire, Simon felt it, but he wasn't like, I still didn't think that he died. Honestly, that whole scene, I thought it was too easy. I thought it would have been better if Raphael. So I figured this whole mind game he was playing with Raphael was exactly that, just nothing but another game to basically goad him into seeing how far Raphael would take his orders, if he would do it, or if he would have a problem with being ordered the way Sebastian was ordering him around. Like, it was all just part of some like sick game. Here's the thing about the whole hostage situation is that he didn't have Clary and Jace at this point, so he needed those hostages still as leverage over Clary and Jace. And he didn't need Raphael's help in the end because he already had Maureen's allegiance, and I also feel like he knew that he couldn't trust Raphael because Raphael literally just said that he believes in upholding the law. So I would have liked it better if they had all picked up on that. This is all just part of Sebastian's game. Because now our child heroes are more clever and in tune with what's going on than our seasoned fighters and vampires who've been alive for a really long time. Like, no, that doesn't really make sense, but hey, you know, YA fantasy, what are you gonna do? Anyways, moving on. So we have Maya and Lily. They meet Katerina at the morgue and they find a demon in there, a body-eating demon, and the demon confirms when and where Sebastian is going to strike next. So they send a message to the Clave. Miss Gia Penhallow is like freaking the fuck out, but they're making preparations, and that was actually kind of cool. They used like the iron and salt and grave dirt and stuff like that to do their best to try to keep them out. Of course, the Undarkened ended up tearing down those barriers, but it helped a little bit, so that was good. Then we go back to the cave. Simon is starving and he didn't say anything. They lost the bottles of blood that they brought, so he ends up feeding off of Alec, and I thought that whole scene was so funny. Like, it was kind of excessively drawn out, but it was worth it because it was so funny, like the conversation and like the awkwardness and like the intimacy. And then I loved how after everything Sebastian was like, well, I kind of felt something, and Alec's like, no, you didn't. So I thought it was really funny. Also, I think it's really interesting, Emma brings up a really good point. She steals some files off of Gia's, I think I'm saying it right, it's Gia, so I don't know how else you would pronounce it. She steals some files off of Gia's desk about her family, and she wants to look into the death of her parents because she doesn't feel like it was just by the Undarkens, because why did her parents get killed instead of getting turned into the Undarkened? It wasn't adding up to her, so she wants to research it. I thought this was going to be like her ultimate battle, but it wasn't. So they work out the way to get the scepter, or it's not called a scepter, it's called a Skeptron. So it worked out. She jumped up, made a portal, Jace jumped through, grabbed the thing, came back through the portal, and they like wiped out all the demons, all the flying demons and stuff, and that pissed Sebastian off. And granted, they didn't get very far with hurting Sebastian and stuff like that, but they pissed him off and it was kind of worth it. Also, I kind of knew that it was way too soon because we still have like 200 pages to go. Yeah, we still gotta drag it out some more. There's another scene with the prisoners where that I thought was really funny, so I had to mention it, is Luke was informed that Clary was there. Luke's like, what? Not Clary, she's not supposed to be here. And Magnus is like, what did he say? He said, isn't she always where she isn't supposed to be? And I'm like, true story. But then right after that, Alec finds them. Yay! Back in Alicante, the war has begun. Honestly, we just kind of keep going episodic and just checking in with that. We're primarily following just Emma and Julian, and Helen finds them and she's leading them through to a safe place. They discover that Brother Zachariah was looking out for them. Sebastian. So Sebastian ended up giving Clary a choice to rule next to him and spare the world and let him close the gates. But that means that they could never go back. Or if she doesn't choose him, he will annihilate them. So she kind of plays along. Now, at this point, I was like, okay, is this part of their plan? Like, it has to be part of their plan. And like the way Cassandra Clare is, she's going to make it seem like this was not part of their plan and now they're suckered in. But the more we kept playing along, I was like, oh no, they're screwed. Sebastian, I swear, he is just all kinds of crazy. He is literally the worst villain I have ever read. But his plans and his execution just seem to be so brilliant, so calculated, so concise, like he's always one step ahead. You know, we obviously know that our villain has to have a weakness or a chink in the chain, or they have to distract him somehow. But the biggest problem with him, and I don't know if it's just his crazy, and it was written in there intentionally to make us feel so frustratingly that we cannot grasp what it is that Sebastian wants. And it works, because he's still I still don't even know what the fuck he was after. Just destruction and chaos and everything else. You can't really understand a character like that. But I kind of had a problem with his motivations. It seemed like he was so motivated for one thing, and then it switches, and every time, then he wants revenge, and then he just wants Clary, and then it's likes to toy with people and fuck with people, and then he just wants to burn the world down, but then he's willing to give all of that up, all of his hard work. We've been working for 3 books for him to get to hell and burn the world down and be the ruler of everything, because everything's about power to him. But he's willing to give it all up just to have Clary by his side. And granted, we see a vulnerability about them, but it seems off to me. It seems wrong to me. It seems like a writing mistake versus our character just being fucking crazy. I don't know. But he's dead now, so I'm over it. I'm happy because I hated him so much. I've never hated a character so much, I don't think. Also, I can't believe that Raphael is actually dead. I literally did not think that he was actually gonna die. Okay, so then back in Alicante, all of a sudden, the Wild Hunt shows up, and I'm like, what? I can't believe, that actually was what the hell? What are they doing there? I was shocked. Hope that I'll have to touch base on that again before the end of the book. Or maybe they just disappear. I don't even know. But we know that Mark is a big player, and he's caught up in the Wild Hunt. So until we get resolution on that, we will be and there's a part of this I'm bringing up because it was very kind of odd and misplaced almost. But anyways, so Clary goes and sits on the throne. She makes her choice to save the world. She's called my queen now. To chapter 23. Now chapter 23, the title of the chapter is Judas Kiss. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't really pay attention to the chapter names that much. I was like, Judas Kiss, betrayal. Because that whole story from before, Judas Kiss, it's betrayal. So I knew it. I knew it was coming in this chapter, but then I was like, no, because it's still too soon. We still have 150 pages to go. Who's gonna betray who here? But this was a heavy chapter. Back in Alicante, the Darkened come and break into the safe haven where all the children were. Poor Julian throws a sword to save Ty and ends up killing his own dad. It's one thing for your family to go evil, it's another thing for you to have to be the one to put them down. That's really sad. I think that he's going to carry that with him for a long time. Everyone manages to find their way to the main epic stage here in this hall. So we have witnesses for all of what's going down. Because they don't really do anything. They're just all witnessing everything that's happening. Clary's sitting upon the throne. Sebastian's in his little protection bubble. Jace is seemingly knocked out. And I think that Jace was faking it the whole time. there was a point where I was like, maybe he's not faking it. Because I'm thinking like, this is part of their plan, right? But then I'm like, maybe it's not. I don't know. There was a line, and I had to mention this because it made me laugh. And this was the part that I felt like, it's kind of out of place. He says, oh, no, it was her friends. When they stormed in, they were like, gonna come up and say, hey, to Clary, or something. Like, they were gonna get close to Clary. And Sebastian stops them and is like, stop where you are. You will not approach the lady of the realm. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're in an old Tolkien book or something. The tone of it, that just seemed really out of place. But anyways, I thought it was funny. They play it all the way out. He has closed the gates, and Jace has to like officially say, I give her to you. And I'm like, okay, Sebastian, like, you are fucking ridiculous. But he's crazy too, so like, can't really expect anything less. Clary's like, well, maybe I can learn to love him. Her mom stands up for her and is like, no, you can't do this. Well, it's the only way. Maybe I could learn to love him in time. And I was like, okay, like, I know she's playing now, but it seemed good to Sebastian. It seemed good enough. She's playing on his weakness, that's what he has desired all this time, is just to have a companion. He says, kiss me, and she says, put your arms around me. And he's just like, what? Oh my god. She's actually not pushing me away. So he goes for it, and she, I guess, kisses him, and that's the Judas kiss. Then she stabs him, and I'm like, yes. But I was expecting him for just like go into a ball of flames, but he has a very slow death. And then I was shocked. After that, it was really heavy hitting because his eyes go green and the demon part of him is gone, and now he's just Jonathan. And Jonathan, he never actually got the chance to be. And like all of it, all the conversations, like, he was apologizing and he was like, you can't forgive me, I understand, like, you shouldn't forgive me, but I just like want to say I'm sorry. I'm like, it was so hard to get, like, I was actually like crying like several times. Oh my god. But then I'm like, what the fuck, I hated him so much. How can he actually make me like also pity him? He does not deserve it. All the emotions, I got all the feels right now. Also, the Endarkened, unfortunately, so Jonathan, our green-eyed Jonathan, he tells them how to stop the Endarkened, and so they cut open the demon. I don't know why he's hiding a cup inside of a demon belly, but I guess it's as good as any other hiding place. They get all gross enough to cut open this demon. They find the cup, and then they throw it into the circle. It ends up killing the Endarkened. I had hope that at the end they were going to be able to save all the Endarkened, and that like if you either killed Sebastian, then his connection to them would be lost and they would all go back to their normal selves. But then I was like, no, that's right, because it's actually Lilith's blood that's running in their veins, so they end up just dying, and like that actually feels really bad. But the bad guy is dead, so I guess we're gonna have to tie up loose ends in this last 100 pages. One of them being, how the hell are they gonna get out of the demon realm because all the gates are closed? Now, again, this came a little bit too easy because he has been like, I'm not telling you who my dad is, da 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 da. Like, Magnus is like, I'm not telling you who my dad is, like, very closed off. And then Alec is like, you said someone could get us out of this mess. Like, it is time. You need to call Father Dearest. Okay, then you guys need to vote on it. And so they're like, okay, it's worth the chance because, like, either we're gonna die here anyways, or we can take the chance of whatever price he wants to give us, and maybe we can get out of here. He's like, okay, and then calls his dad. And I knew it, okay? I have not officially gotten to the point where he explains who his dad is, but I knew it. I literally even wrote it right here. Okay, my light's not working that well. It says, my father who art in hell. I was like, oh, this is the beginning of a prayer, your prayer to God. So obviously is the exact opposite, the prayer to Lucifer, to call Lucifer. So his dad is seriously Lucifer? I don't know yet. We're gonna find out. But I just have to say the prayer because I think it's really funny how they like twisted the words. My Father who art in hell, unhallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in Edom as it is in hell. Forgive not my sins, for in this fire of fires there shall be neither loving kindness nor compassion nor redemption. So yeah, I'm at the bottom of that page, 620. And while I'm here, I am Asmodeus. Asmodeus? One of the 9 princes of hell. Okay, so it's not Lucifer exactly, but he's a prince of hell. Isn't that pretty much close enough? I don't know. I have a feeling that we're gonna get to some funny bits right here. Alright, don't judge. I'm like so tired, so I just have to, the last bit of it, I just want to wrap up the very ending. What the fuck? The demon Asmodeus took Simon's immortality and all of his memories. At first when he volunteered, I was like, oh, brilliant idea, because he hasn't been a vampire very long, and like, so he's just going to pick up where he left off and have his normal life, and that's really cool. But then we were gonna take all of his memories, and that means everybody who ever like all of our main characters, even anyone else who could clue him in, the whole shadow world. And like, it was heartbreaking at first, but then like the more I thought about it, I was like, but at the cost of like having a normal life again. Being a vampire for him is like really hard. It's hard for everybody. Nobody wants like to be a vampire in this world. So in this last portion of the book, as they're tying up loose ends, they are having a clave meeting, and they're doling out punishment to the Fae for being a part of the being against them. And this like meeting does not go very well. But they call Kaylee. She was the girl who worked at the Fairy Cafe. So she's standing up to be the representative. Magnus was saying that I think that they're being too harsh. Being harsh is not a good strategy, because they're just going to have more reasons to be upset. And it's like so true. He's like, it's just insane for you guys to continue to do the same things, and we're just like, there's no peace here. No one's actually getting any resolution. It's really true. Anyways, what I was going to get at is I would like to see more the Seelie Court versus the Unseelie Court, because until this book we've only heard of like the Fae as just being the Fae and the Seelie Queen. That's been all we've known about the Fae government. When Kaylee gets up, she says there's Seelie versus the Unseelie Court, and she's the representative for the Seelie Court. But despite the division in the Fae, the Shadowhunters are like acting very prejudiced. They punished Helen. They're like all afraid of her now because she's part Fae, as if that's her fault, or sending her away to like the Arctic. That was so fucked up. And they blip into the mortal worlds and realize Simon isn't there. Everyone's extremely upset. But also, I guess I feel like they were kind of selfish, because now he could live a normal life. And I know it's totally different for his relationship with Clary. It's totally different for Clary. But Clary is in a new position now, and you know, he's not suffering because he's just going about his normal teenage life, has no recollection of the shadow world or being a vampire or anything. Who knows if he would just start remembering weird things or start feeling like he's crazy anyways, because they're trying to see if he remembered anything. And I freaking love it when he hands him the flyer for his band. The new band name they've chosen, they never could settle on a band name, but the band name they have chosen now is called the Mortal Instruments. I'm like, what? That was so cool. It clued them in that he remembered something. He might not know why he came up with that name, but something in his subconscious is like coming out. They start, see if he remembers anything else. Magnus and Izzy kind of team up, and they totally surprise Clary. Luke stands down and hands over the reins to Maya so that he could be with his family, get married, and do all that good stuff. So I kind of actually saw that coming, because Luke has a lot going on. He really can't dedicate everything to his wolf pack, and he hasn't been able to for a long time. It seems like pretty much ever since Jocelyn has come back and they've become an item, like he's been giving less and less of his time to his pack. So it's better that he stood down. Oh yeah, so the prejudices on Helen. Helen and Mark. Mark is part of the hunt, the wild hunt now, so they're like, we don't want to find him. It's easier if he just stays away. And like, that's fucked up too. And he's just a little boy. And then Helen, they decide to send her off to the Arctic, but I guess Aline is going to follow her out there. So that's really cool. Almost like she is being punished, and she didn't do anything, except she just has Fae blood. Now Emma was going to have to stay in Idris, and she was going to go to the Shadowhunters Academy. I guess they're rebuilding the Shadowhunters Academy. She blurted out that she has accepted Julian as her parabatai. They are like, okay, if you're really sure, like it's a big commitment, but if that's what you want to do, then you can go to LA. So now they can't split them up, but I don't know. It doesn't seem right. I mean, it's good that she is super close to him anyways, but like she ulterior motives to be accepting, so mostly that so she can investigate what happened to her parents and seek revenge on them. I don't know why, that just does not sit right with me. She should have only accepted if that's what she really wants, and it almost kind of cheapens her acceptance. So we'll see how that plays out, because It was my mistake. I thought the next set of books, Artifices, the Dark Artifices, I thought that was the children TID, but it's not. It's just continues on with this story just following Emma, but in 2008, so it's modern. Okay, so at the wedding, Zachariah shows up and Tessa is there. Tessa accompanies him, and like that is so cool. But like it seems like they have to be really, really careful about like not divulging too much of everything that they know. They still have to like keep certain things secret, and which makes a lot of sense. And also I guess she does have some important information is going to have to come out. She has to tell Jace about some big thing that's happened to the Herondale family, but she decides not to put that burden on him yet and allow him just to be happy for a while longer. I wonder if the Dark Artifices is going to bring out what that is, and on the side, whatever's going on with Emma, they're going to have to also be dealing with that. I don't know. We'll see. So her and Clary sit down and have a long conversation, and she gives Clary the Shadowhunters Codex. I don't think she says it. She says it's a Fairchild. I don't know if she says it's from the head of the London Institute when Tessa was there, the Shadowhunters Codex, and I have my Shadowhunters Codex, so I'm excited to get into that. I mean, I know it's not like a real like story, it's like reference material, but I've kind of flipped through it and I know that there's like notes from our characters from when they used it, and I think it's gonna make a lot more sense when I read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Jace is considering taking the Herondale name, and then that means he will also get the Herondale's assets if he accepts the name. He's decided he's going to take the Herondale name, and so Tessa gives him the ring. It was James's ring. I was wondering who makes the rings and all the other like little trinkets and like the necklace that Isabel wears and things like that, but I guess the Iron Sisters make all those things. So there's that. How do I feel about it? I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to sit on it a little bit longer to really assess my feelings on City of Heavenly Fire. I would say there was some tears. I had some feels. There was some serious like edge of my seat wow moments. Maybe I just thought it was supposed to be way more epic, and I feel like in comparison to some of our other ending scenes, I felt like it was kind of rushed, especially being the absolute total end of the Mortal Instruments. At the end of all of these vlogs, I do want to kind of go back and assess my whole total feelings on everything, and maybe watch back and see my vlogs and my predictions, and we're gonna have a good time looking back on all of it. So that is the plan. I'm not going to really place any judgments yet. I've realized I'm sometimes really quick to judge, and then I will quickly move on to something else because I'm always reading something, and I think that I just come to decisions a little bit too quick, so I kind of do want to sit on it a little bit. Time really tells if it sticks with you. So I guess that wraps up this vlog. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.